Shalom, Shalom Israel. I am the brother Yawana from the Great Millstone, Arizona camp, coming back at y'all with Lord's will, another edifying lesson. First and foremost, as always, before I start, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachach Warash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, our teachers. Shalom to you brothers pushing and teaching this truth across the four winds of this earth. And as always, peace, blessings, and many salutations be to you sincere Akel Ma'akwath, you brothers, along with your few sisters, who are giving all diligence in these last days. Right, through the mercy and grace of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, through his only beloved begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, coming back with another sit-down lesson, and this is going to be another addition to the series of another prophecy update, the signs of the times. Okay, and as you can see, from the beginning of this lesson, I had various different clips play, okay, which are showing you all the different events and things that are happening in the world, okay, because we're living in a time, right, where prophecy is coming to pass, right, in time biblical prophecy, and those who have eyes to see, right, can clearly understand. Right, matter of fact, let's get right here in the book of Matthew, chapter 16 and verse 1, and it reads, "The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, and tempting, desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said unto them, When it is evening, ye say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times?" You see, and Yahweh Shai is likening the signs of the times, to the changing of weather. Right, when you see the clouds start to come in and, the sky becomes darker and the clouds are gray, that it's going to rain today. All right, you can smell the rain in the air. So it's apparent when you start to see the clouds change, that, it's going to be a particular type of day. Right, again, when it's going to rain. But just as you see the clouds and it's apparent when you look up and you see the clouds coming and it's going to rain, it should be apparent of the times that we're in. All right, it should be very obvious that this isn't just some, I guess time where, we should just be chilling, okay, or, not paying attention, man. This is high time to wake out of sleep. Okay, this pursuing to Romans 13 and 11. Okay, so you people can understand when the rain's going to come, but you can't understand the signs of the times. You still have people to this day, as of right now, saying that what we're talking about concerning living in the last days is not true. When all these different end time prophecies are taking place. Okay, you saw that sky turning red, all right, and then where they say Northern Europe, okay, the Sea of Galilee turning blood red, right, this past week. You see that fireball chariot, in the heavens. What else? What else do we have? Let's go back. Just want to see what else we had. Right, 7 suns appearing in China. Okay. Fires going on in California. There's really fires going on all over the place, man. Okay, this is not just by coincidence. And this is the book of, so I skipped it. The book of Luke, chapter 21, and verse 25. And it reads, "And there shall be signs in the sun," right? 7 suns. Okay, sometimes there's multiple moons, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. You see that? So there's going to be signs in the sun, right? Signs in the moon, these different blood moons. Hell, the moon's been orange the past couple of nights, right? Full moon too, beautiful, right? But the scriptures tell us to don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven. So don't be discouraged or fear when you see these different things happen, but understand that it's a part of biblical prophecy and that we're etching closer and closer to the return of our Lord Yahweh Shai, which entails we're getting closer and closer to the downfall of Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America, man. All right, that's what all these signs, ultimately point to. All right, that the end of this place, that what people call America, which we know as Babylon the Great, is going to be destroyed, man. We're getting closer and closer to that day. That's what all these signs are ultimately showing us. All right, that day is fastly approaching. Okay, nuclear warfare, right? Let me get this real quick before we go to the next scripture that I had. Let's go to the book of Joel, chapter 2. And verse 30, it says, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and these chariot sightings, man, are increasing at an all-time high. Okay, chariot sightings, chariots doing different maneuvers in the skies. And if you don't know, which by now you should already, but if this is your first video coming into the truth, the chariots, right, in the Bible are known as the so-called UFOs today. The UFOs, right, means really unidentified flying object. But in the scriptures, in certain cases, the chariots are referred to as, or the UFOs are referred to chariots. They're referred to as clouds. Okay, and ultimately, those are the vehicles of the angels, man. And in this time, right, they're being seen a lot more throughout the entire world, especially here in America, man. Right, America has, has documented, it has the most chariot. It's like it has documented the most chariot sightings in all the world. Right, there's more chariot sightings over here than any part of the world, man. Right, and that's pursuing in Zechariah the 5th chapter, man, where that curse goeth over the earth, man, referring to these chariots, okay, and entering into the house of the thief. And the house of the thief is America, man. All right, and these chariots are coming over here and they're taking notes and they're ultimately giving a report. All right, but nevertheless, that's the chariots are a part of the wonders in the heavens, man. Different fireballs, streaking across the sky. You see, different, stars and things happening up in the heavens that can't be explained by men. I remember, maybe I'll put in the post production of this video, but it was maybe a month or two ago. You had this, I don't even know what you would call it. I remember I showed bros, nobody. It was just a wonder, as we're reading, it was just a wonder in the heavens. It was like thousands of fireballs falling together at the same time, going across the sky. It was beautiful, man. All right, but that's again a part of the wonders that the Lord is showing, and I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth. And the Lord's also doing it in the earth. Blood and fire and pillars of smoke. All these different fires that we're seeing. That's all part of the Lord's judgment at the end of the day. But it's also a part of prophecy, man, as we're reading. Okay, fire and pillars of smoke. All right. And before I get these next two articles, I want to read this in the book of Matthew. Because, again, we're living in a time of prophecy, man. The average person doesn't care because they don't see where it benefits them knowing. They don't see the profit in understanding the times that they're in. People, our people still want to hear smooth things. They want us to prophesy into them deceits. They want to be distracted with the things of the world so that they don't have to realize the reality of the life they're living in, man, where biblical and spiritual things are happening. Okay, that can't be disputed. And although they still do and they continue to scoff, a prophecy going to be so heavy in the days ahead, man, where people aren't going to be able to help but acknowledge what's happening, and they're going to know that a prophet is amongst them, right? But at that time of them realizing that, for a lot of them people, it's going to be too late for them to get right. This is Matthew chapter 24, right, in verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So Yahushai's coming signifies the end of the world. Okay, when Yahushai comes, it's going to be when he returns, I should say, it's going to be the end of the wicked rule of the heathen. Okay, starting with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. All right, because these devils are in their power. They are in their heaven. They're in their rulership, but their rulership is going to be stripped away, okay, by the King of Kings, right, the Lord of Lords. It says, And Yahushai answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. And you have had many people since I first came in this truth, years ago, or, but even more so now, recently, the past year, you've had a lot of different men come out and say that they're the Lord and Savior, that they can heal sins, and saying that they can do miracles and all these different things, man. Right? But at the same time of them doing that, they're deceiving many people. While we're sitting here looking at them like, man, the Lord warned us of that. That's the importance of understanding these prophecies, man. You can't be deceived. Okay? And ultimately, Lord willing, with the elect, man, the elect will not be deceived. It reads, And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. We're seeing, we're seeing World War III more closer now than we've ever seen it, man. The tensions between America and these other nations. And I have an article right here that I want to read. Okay, and this is straight off the press. Straight off the press. Right, I believe today is August 9th. Right, or it's like August 10th. Right, but it's still very fresh. And this is off of ladbible.com. And it says Russia set to test unstoppable doomsday nuclear missile named Flying Chernobyl as World War III fears grow. It's feared Russia is preparing for war. And that goes right into Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, man. The Lord is putting hooks into the jaws of Gog and Magog, which is Russia within the Bible. Okay, and ultimately turning them, right, and putting it in their mind for war. Okay, pursuing Proverbs 21:1, that the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. That's really the time we're in right now, man. The time of war. Matter of fact, this is the book of scriptures go into this. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Here's the point. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And we are not in a time of peace. Okay? And ultimately, Donald Trump, was seeking, for Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, to ultimately end the war on Ukraine. But, obviously that's not going to happen, right? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Vladimir Putin actually wants, a major part of Ukraine, but Vladimir Zelensky, which is the president of Ukraine, he said he's not going for it, man. All right, so, there is no peace. And that's something that we've been hearing, since Donald Trump, first came into office, at his whole speech saying he's going to bring the golden age, to America, which is a time of great prosperity, success, and peace. Which, as soon as we start hearing that, pursuing of 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter, once they start saying peace and safety, we already know that sudden destruction is coming. Okay, so, again, the Lord's putting it in the minds of these different nations to ultimately prepare a war against who? Against the whore spoken of in the book of Revelation, which is referring to America. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3. And verse 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Woo! And that's the mindset these nations have. Okay, they're not worried, and we're going to get into it in this article. They're not worried about America's sanctions and their threats anymore. They're not worried about, America trying to intimidate them, because now they possess weapons of their own, to retaliate. You see, and that's the time we're in, where these rumors of wars and these talks and these these tensions are not just going to be tensions. They're eventually going to turn into actions. Okay? So, again, this is on ladbible.com. And it reads, Russia is set to test an unstoppable doomsday nuclear missile, new satellite imagery has suggested. With the chilling nickname Flying Chernobyl, this reported test comes as fears of World War III continue to grow. Right? An unstoppable weapon. It says that's a phrase we've unfortunately been hearing more and more often over this year, with tensions and threats seeming to be increasing between Russia and the U.S. And they're going to continue to increase, man, because eventually, Russia is going to play a major role in being one of the many nations amongst even America's allies that contribute to the destruction of this place, the destruction and the downfall of America. It's Donald Trump has reportedly bandied it. Donald Trump has repeatedly bandied it about it. I can't even speak. Has repeatedly bandied it about having accused Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky of gambling with World War III. Before further claims Vladimir Putin was preparing for just that. The Russian and American leaders are set for a highly anticipated face-to-face meeting on Friday, August 15th. So that's coming up, right? Donald Trump is going to go talk, right, to Russian leaders. Okay? It says, with Trump having previously called for Putin to end the war in Ukraine, and that comes after the U.S. president was mocked by Russian media for moving 2 nuclear submarines. Trump was accused of having a temper tantrum as he decided there had been a threat made by Russia. He said he was moving the subs to protect our people. And with its own mega nuclear arsenal, Russia is now reportedly gearing up to do a new test on the Novaya Zemlya archipelago. I can't even, I don't know if I said that right, so forgive me. It suggested that there's said to be a launch of the 9M730 Birsnik. It says it's reported that satellite imagery and activity have found that at least 4 Russian vessels previously anchored near the test site have now moved into observation positions in the eastern Barents Sea. Doing this is apparently pretty standard for large missile trials. And it's added that Russian aviation authorities have issued a notice to airmen covering 40,000 square kilometers over Novaya Zemlya that went active at 8 p.m. UK time on Thursday and runs until Tuesday night. The Flying Chernobyl was announced by Putin back in 2018, and the leader has touted it as invincible. See that? Because again, beat your plowshares into how we just read that? It's like Joel chapter 3. I don't want to butcher it. Right? In 10, it says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Right? Plowshares and pruning hooks, those are farming tools. Okay? Basically, hey, take them farming tools and turn them into swords, man. Turn them into spears. Okay? And that's really what the Lord has, the spirit on these different nations, man. They're ultimately building up these weapons of mass destruction. Right? And that goes right into this as well. Right? Isaiah chapter 54. And verse 16, it reads, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. And then the modern day smith is your different modern day scientist and blacksmith. Okay, which are ultimately, or the different modern day scientists and engineers, right, that are that, blacksmith creating, these weapons, as it goes to say, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And that instrument is these missiles. And I have created the waster to destroy. And that's what these weapons are intended for. Okay, that's why they are being created. That's why these nations are developing these weapons. They're not just going to be looked at like, I remember Elder Manata Zakba said years ago, the beloved elder from the South Carolina camp. He said that these weapons are not just going to be, put up in some museum to be looked at. And then, we say in our mind, well, damn, if these things would have been used, man, hey, that could have been some trouble. No, these things are going to be used. Okay, let's get this scripture. Bear with me. It's in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and verse 25. And it reads, the Lord Yahweh hath opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. See that? So, these weapons that these nations have, these nuclear arsenals, these are known as the weapons of the Lord's indignation, right? His armory. All right. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Ooh. And that's heavy too in NLT on the right hand side. It says the terror that falls upon the Babylonians will be the work of the sovereign Lord of heaven's armies. I mean, that's scary. You see, but they see that's why the Lord has these weapons. He's going to use them to execute his indignation upon America, man, which is right, rightly deserved. Okay. So let's go back to this article. Right. It says the Flying Chernobyl was announced by Putin back in 2018, and the leader has touted it as invincible. He said the nuclear-armed cruise missile has an almost unlimited range and can evade U.S. missile defenses. And that's the thing, man. A lot of people say, oh, America has the strongest army, but the scripture referred to this place as what? Well, let's get it. Right? It's one of my favorite scriptures as well. Right? Going back to Ezekiel chapter 38. And verse 10, it says, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at that same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And that's being put in the mind of these Russians, man. Okay, that's what this is going into, right? And they're ultimately thinking about destroying this place, man. Okay, really the whole world, man. Even the Iranians, man. I believe almost 3 weeks ago, they had a whole council, and they were chanting, "Death to America, death to America." Okay, scriptures talk about how in Jeremiah that the nations, matter of fact, I got to get that too. All right, I'll say Jeremiah, the 51st chapter. Skip. This is Jeremiah chapter 51. Bear with me. In verse 7, it reads, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Yeah, the nations are tired and fed up with this place. Just like how you drink something and then you get a bad hangover. You're like, oh, what the hell was that drink? That's how these nations feel. And then ultimately, what they drunk, all right, that wine was ultimately, their America's democracy, their philosophies and ways of life, okay, their traditions and customs, right, which have polluted, the customs of the other nations, man, of their own customs. You see, it's poison. It says Babylon. The scriptures talk about his poison walketh in the earth, right? Roughly paraphrasing, or his tongue walketh in the earth, right? It says Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her, and take balm for her pain? If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. And that's ultimately going to be the smoke, okay, which is going to be the effect, right, from the cause of a nuclear weapons penetrating this place, man. It's going to see fires. This whole land, this whole continent is going to be a lake of fire, man. And smoke is going to be seen from all around the world, man. People are going to see the destruction of America, and ultimately it's going to be broadcasted as well, okay? But see, a great destruction awaits this place, and there's no going back. There's no saving this place, man. I remember I had a dream, just quick testimony, years ago, where I was like, I don't want to say I was flying, but it's like I was in third person, but I was watching these two pilots, these two fighter jets, and one came into frame, and then another one came in right next to it, and they were flying together. And one of the men said to one of them, I forget what they said, but they were talking, and next thing you know, there was a big old missile that cruised by both of them, and it just flew past. And after that missile had flew past, they looked at each other, and one of the pilots had said to the other pilot, he said, we would have healed Babylon, but she cannot be healed. It's too late to save this place, something to that effect. And then I had woke up, but see, that was a spiritual dream. That's biblical, bro. This place cannot be saved. Okay, it's too late. You got people trying to, have it in their mind that, Donald Trump is really going to bring peace to this place. And, that's not coming, bro. And the job of the prophets was to what, man? Speak against many great countries and kingdoms of war, evil, and pestilence. And that's exactly what's coming. All those things, especially war. All right. And these missiles that these nations have developed, they're not going to be able to be stopped, man. Going right back to Ezekiel 38:11, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. And America is known as an unwalled village because it doesn't have defense systems against EMPs, against hackers, and even especially against ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. And even if they were able to defend, even if they were able to create something that was going to be able to help defend them, it's still no match. We got to remember, man, that there is 4 angels prepared for a month, for a year, and for a day, right? A month, a year, a day. What was it? Oh, man, I'm forgetting. Let's go to that real quick because I'm butchering it. This is Revelation chapter 9 and 15. It says, and the 4 angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men, and the third part of men being the Edomites, okay, which the elite banking family, the wealthy and rich of the Edomites are gonna, as we understand according to prophecy, be in those deep underground military bunkers, and they're gonna survive the wrath. But all the Edomites that are up here, man, especially in America, they're gonna be destroyed, man. Okay. But nevertheless, those 4 angels are prepared already. So there's nothing that anybody can do. Okay, America's expiration date, all right, is soon to come, right? But going back, I believe I had that Jeremiah, and then I had something else. Oh, yeah, that's right, Ezekiel chapter 38 and verse 11. It says, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely. And that's the spirit that these people are here, that they're in America, man. Right, just being at ease, not paying attention to anything that's happening in the news. Again, there's so much going on. And I was just trying to sit here before I did this lesson, and I was just sitting like, damn, looking at everything going on. I'm like, man, how are we not living in the last days? But see, the average person has been blinded by Shem Yahushua, so they can't see, and understand, right? The times that we're in, which again is very important that we understand. Okay. Because if once you understand that you're living in the last days, the days of the coming of the Son of Man, and that day is coming soon of his return, you're going to be getting yourself right, man. Okay, scriptures talk about, let us put off the works of darkness. All right, the day is at hand and the night is far spent. Let us put on the armor of light, man. Let us prepare ourselves and trim that oil in our lamp, right, and get ready for the coming of the bridegroom, man. All right, because that's ultimately what all these prophecies is building up to, right? But nevertheless, okay, let's go back to this article, right? Oh, there's actually one more scripture I wanted to get. Salakia. It was in the book of Joel, the 2nd chapter, dealing on the point that these missiles, once they are shot, are not going to be able to be, avoided. Like it says in 2nd Ezra, chapter 16. Let's just grab it. Might as well. Oops, I keep skipping. All right, let's skip. 2nd Ezra, chapter 16 and verse 13. It reads, "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp." And the arrows, it's not talking about literal arrows, man. It's talking about missiles. And sharp meaning they were intellectually made. Okay, they were made to accomplish the Lord's will perfectly, right? As it says in Isaiah, the 47th chapter, man, how it shall come upon thee in their perfection. Okay, the scriptures say that the Lord's work is perfect, right? It says, "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world." You see that? The Lord's not going to miss. This is Joel chapter 2 and verse 5 in the NLT. Getting to the point, it says, "Look at them as they leap along the mountaintops. Listen to the noise they make, like the rumbling of chariots, like the roar of fire sweeping across a field of stubble, or like a mighty army moving into battle." See that? And like it says, a strong people set in battle array. That goes right back to Revelation 9. Okay, that, the 200,000 horsemen, which wasn't talking about literal horses. Okay, we understand horses represents power, and these missiles pack a lot of power, man. Again, they're known as weapons of mass destruction, weapons that can cause great damage, man. Just one missile alone. Okay, it says, "Fear grips all the people. Every face grows pale with terror." And that's going to be, the spirit of everybody in that day, man. Okay, because when those missiles go off, man, there's nowhere to go. And again, these missiles are able to reach over here, some of them within less than 30 minutes. So so 30 minutes, the missile is headed, boom, it's headed this way. You might not even get the notification till it's 15 minutes out, maybe not even 10 minutes out. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to hide. That's why this message, right, of repent and get right, man, is always so urgent. It's always being said, with a very serious tone. Okay, because when that day comes, there is no redos, man. There is no second chance. You either spent this time, right, where the Lord had grace and the gates of mercy open. You either spent it wisely and you took advantage of it and you got closer to the Lord, or you despised it, you didn't take advantage of it, right? You abused it and you just bullshitted, man. Now that day is going to come and you're going to be greatly afraid, because now you're going to be destroyed, man. Right, and that's going to be the average person, because a lot of people have had time to get this truth, man. All these different signs happening. Yahweh Bashmashai has men all over the world to speak on these things, as it says in Isaiah, the 62nd chapter. Right, the Lord has set watchmen upon thy walls of Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. And that goes into us speaking about the signs, man. Really speaking the truth, but going into the things that we're seeing on the watchtower. All right, that we were commanded to do, watch and pray. And as we watch, we're supposed to break these things down, right, and measure out the time diligently, man. And let all you believers know that we're in those times right now. Okay, so when that day comes, man, a lot of people are gonna be in fear and a spirit of terror, right? Especially at the sound of those missiles, bro. That's, the Lord's giving me certain dreams, and even last week I had a dream where I saw a missile hit the city, man. That shit was scary. It was a living nightmare. You see, but that nightmare is going to be a reality. The Lord willing, we're the elect, man. We're going to be delivered out from the second death. It says the attackers march like warriors and scale city walls like soldiers. Straightforward they march, never breaking rank. Ooh, they never jostle each other. Each moves in exactly the right position. They break through defenses without missing a step. You see that? Each one's going to move in exactly the right position, just like, for example, you see those movies and a dude takes 4 arrows and he puts them on a bow and he pulls it back. and he might have 4 targets in front of him, and he'll shoot all 4 arrows at the same time, and each one hits a bullseye. You know, that's how, like we just read, the Lord is a mighty, expert archman, right? How did he say? It says, for strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. I believe it says it somewhere up here. Right, here it is. 2nd Ezra 16 and 7. It says, may one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer. That's right, man. The Lord is a strong archer. All right. So, when these missiles are shot, the Lord is not going to miss. Right? Oh, yeah, this is the one I was talking about. Verse 16, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. And we're seeing a lot of them plagues in this time now. The birth pains. Okay, the signs of the times. Right? But nevertheless, these missiles, man, when they're shot, they're going to move exactly how the Lord has them move. And they're not going to miss a step. They're going to break through defenses. So any defense system that may even be up, they're going to break through them, man. Light work for the Lord. Light work. Going back to this article. Let's see. Here we go. I think I left from here. It says, back in September, it was said that the Bundeswehr had a poor test record of at least 13 known tests with only 2 partial successes since 2016, according to the Nuclear Threat Initiative. But little seems to be publicly known about the missile's technical details, with Putin saying it would be low-flying with an unpredictable flight path. A nuclear expert even called it a uniquely stupid weapon system, as it poses a threat to Russia itself, if that makes you feel any better. It says, if I want to get into that. Oh, here, let's get this too. It says, what has Russia said about Trump? Trump previously set a deadline for the current Russian president, I can't even talk Slovakia, for the current Russian president, Vladimir Putin, to end the war with Ukraine by August 8th. Earlier in the week, he proposed a 10 or 12-day deadline, which comes after he threatened to hike up tariffs against Russia's oil exports if Putin did not bring an end to the war or a ceasefire in 50 days. In response to these claims, Medvedev posted on Twitter, claiming each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war. And that's ultimately what Trump's doing. It says that's what he wants. Really, that's what the Lord wants. You see, so the Lord putting that on Donald Trump's spirit to etch us closer and closer to that war, man, that we're going into within the prophecy. It says he described Trump's words as theatrical and said that Russia didn't care about Trump's ultimatum game. Trump's playing the ultimatum game with Russia, 50 days or 10, Medvedev wrote. He should remember 2 things. 1, Russia isn't Israel or even Iran. 2, each new ultimatum is a threat and a step towards war, not between Russia and Ukraine, but with his own country. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road, he added, making a reference to former U.S. President Joe Biden. So you can see they're mocking this place, man. Don't go down the Sleepy Joe road, right? It says, meanwhile, Putin previously said we need a lasting and stable peace on solid foundation that would satisfy both Russia and Ukraine and would ensure the security of both countries. Okay? And that was ultimately the point, right, that I wanted to, get into, man, is, this whole, relationship between Russia and the U.S., man, ain't looking too good. Right? And Vladimir Putin is ready to blow this place off the face of the map, right alongside with China, right, with Iran, North Korea, and even some of America's allies, man, that eventually are going to turn on America are going to be feeling that same way. Okay? And hey, Lord willing, man, it comes a lot sooner rather than later. Okay, so not only you have that going on, right? Right? It's like, yeah. Let me make sure. Okay. It says, this is on endtimeheadlines.org, and it says Guatemala rattled by magnitude 5.9 earthquake. See, just wanted to blow a trumpet on this too, man, because there's a lot of earthquakes going on, right? You just had that major earthquake that took place off the coast of Russia, right? I believe last week that was an 8.8, right, which caused floods, all right, in different places, man. All right, and there's different floods still happening right now. Okay, people being swept away, people being people going missing, children getting caught in the debris. You see? So that was in Guatemala. Strong magnitude 6.1 earthquake strikes Turkey. Also in Turkey, man. Guatemala, Turkey, all over the world we're seeing these earthquakes, man. Because we're living, again, in the time of these birth pains, the time of these plagues being sent unto the earth. All right, and this was ultimately the last thing that I wanted to touch on. Okay, and this is on current affairs, right, .org. And as you see, they have this in the street. It says it's an offense to support a proscribed organization. Britain, here's the headline: Britain is losing its free speech and America could be next. And that's not very far-fetched. Okay, Donald Trump coming up with all these censorship laws to ultimately have it to where we can't even, really even now, man, there's different algorithms that have been, created to the intent where we can't even say certain words. We have to code name certain words so we can even speak on our platforms, man, so that our videos don't get striked and taken down. All right, and censorship is going to become more and more intense, man, until eventually we're not even going to be able to teach anymore. Okay, which is going to contribute to the prophecy of the famine of the word. So us seeing these different, these different places in the world, having it to where censorship is increasing and free speech is being taken away, this is a sign that the famine of the word is near, man. So again, this is just another sign that we're living in the end times. It says the Brits are losing their free speech in a lot of ways, but the one that's drawn the most attention recently is how they now have to enter an ID to use websites like Twitter, Blue Sky, Discord, YouTube, Spotify, and potentially even Wikipedia. So even to have access to apps on the internet, you have to put in an ID, right? And eventually, we already know what this is going to turn into. This is going to ultimately transition, to a micro CHIP. It's not going to be an ID or a barcode or a phone. It's going to ultimately be a CHIP, an electronic grain of rice that you're going to have to take and implement underneath your skin in order to have access, right, to different services, right, to businesses, to pay your rent, right, to buy and sell. It says this is because their government has enacted something called the Online Safety Act, allegedly for the people's protection. And they even said that, they're going to increase censorship, to protect children. But the same people that are saying that are the same individuals that are doing, all these different things. And you people know what I'm talking about, man. I can't get into it on, YouTube, but we all know what they're doing with those children, man, on them different Epstein Islands. Okay, with the whole Diddy parties and the shit that they be doing at their little secret, parties down, doing all different types of satanic shit. We know what you Edomites and even some of you rich Jakes, we know all you wicked are doing, man. Right? So they always say, oh, it's for the children's safety. But look what you're doing to the children, man. Okay? Now, what was that, man? A couple years back, you had it to where at one of them shipping docks where they receive, goods and, the ports come in through the shipping containers. You had one container that they opened and everybody almost passed out because as soon as they opened it, man, it filled all the way to the back and all the way to the top. So much when they opened it, all the shit fell out, man. And what was it? It was different body parts of kids and children, some even whole, falling right out, man. You see? So, yeah, man, it's not for the children. It's not for nobody's safety. It's ultimately to silence the truth. That's really why they make these different acts and laws. It's going to say through his policy shall he cause craft to prosper in his hand. And that's what these devils do, man. Okay, they say let our strength be the law of justice, as it says in Wisdom of Solomon, the 2nd chapter. It says the legislation was originally passed in 2023 under the short-lived conservative government of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. But because Sir Keir Starmer is essentially a conservative himself, he kept it around when he became PM. And last week it came into full effect. The act, which you can read in full here, is intended to control both illegal content and activity that is harmful to children online. See that? To that end, confers new functions and powers on the regulator, Ofcom, essentially the British version of the FCC, and imposes duties on social media companies and other online providers to ensure that a higher standard of protection is provided for children than for adults. And of course, this means those companies have to know who is a legal minor and who's an adult. And so the ID requirements come in starting on July 25th, which has already been going into effect. British internet users started to notice intrusive pop-up screens when they tried to use various apps and websites, all demanding that they verify or assure their age by scanning an ID. So this is happening right now, bro. Today is the 10th of August. This came into effect July 25th. Okay, so this is happening right now. Having to verify everywhere you go through an ID, which again is leading into the MOTB system. And that's how these devils move. You know, they ultimately test certain things, overseas and see how it does. And then eventually they bring it here to America, and then they transition it and further their agenda, right? It says, or assure their age by scanning an ID, entering a credit card, or taking a selfie for an AI to estimate their age. For porn websites, you have to verify to access the site at all. For social media sites, particularly posts or sub-forums that are flagged as harmful, may be blocked off unless you've identified yourself. And see, this could lead to the famine of the word, because, we could put our ID in, and they might have the algorithm to where, the algorithm tells the system once we scan our ID, they know what we teach, or they know what we speak about, and it's harmful to YouTube's guidelines, right, or whatever. You see, that's eventually what they could do, which again would have this prophecy come to pass. And I'm just going to read it. But before I read it, I'm going to read this. In 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 1, and it reads, "Nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, behold, the days shall come that they which dwell upon earth shall be taken in great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith." You see that? And the way of truth shall be hidden, because right now, the way of truth is open and seen to all, that dwell on the earth, man. Okay, by the way of this internet, and not only do you got prophets all throughout the earth in the chief place of concourse, right in people's face, teaching this truth, you have the internet where you may not have to go outside. You just scrolling on social media, right? And you see brothers teaching, or, you might go to another app as you run into brothers again, you scroll past them. So the Lord is, had it to where, this truth has accomplished, covered much ground, man, through this internet, through the unicorn. Okay, and the scriptures go into how the books will be open before the firmament. So that's taking place now. But so that access, to this knowledge isn't always going to be here. Eventually, the way of truth is going to be hidden. And go down to verse 9, 2nd Ezra 5 and 9. "And salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into his secret chamber." You see that? Wisdom and understanding is going to withdraw itself, right, into who? The elect. The scripture saying in Proverbs, "In the dwelling place of the wise there is a treasure, and there is oil." Right? Scripture say we have treasure in this earthen vessels, man. The scriptures, refer to this truth as oil, man. Again, that oil in our lamp. All right, so we have to, Lord willing, we're the elect, man. When all hell breaks loose and people are going to be searching for this truth, we're going to have, we still going to have the truth. We're going to have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of these scriptures, which is, as it says in Isaiah 33 and 6, which is going to keep us stable. Okay, it's going to withdraw itself really with the elect, man, of the Lord. All right, it shall be sought of many and yet not be found. Then shall unrighteousness and incontinency be multiplied upon earth. One land also shall ask another and say, "Is righteousness that maketh a man righteous gone through thee?" And it shall say, "No." That's how bad the times are going to be. All right. But so right now it's time to get this word, man, because as of now, there is so much going on that, it's almost even hard to cover everything, man. You see? But so that's what this is leading to, right? I don't know how long this app is or this article, but we'll, just kind of touch on a few more points and get out of there, because the point is made, man. All right, you're going to now need an ID to be able to use different apps and platforms, right? And for us, who teach the truth, and, what we teach is offensive, to so many people, and they hate us, they could very well have it to where we can't post anymore. But, the Lord might have it work out where we just have to use our ID and scan in, and, we just have to keep doing that until they heighten and intensify, their hold and their squeeze on our ability to teach on their platforms, man. Because really, we're behind enemy lines. But the Lord has it to where, this truth, continues to go out despite the laws they make until it's fulfilled its purpose. Okay, and when that day comes, the Lord is going to cause the tongue of his prophets to cleave into the roof of their mouth. which entails the Lord having a whole, scenario be orchestrated to where we can't teach anymore. Because it's not going to be like, oh, we're done. These devils are going to make it to where we can't. All right. And that's going to mean that the time is up, right, for this ministry, right, for the speaking and warning of the calamities and the judgments to come. It says, for porn websites, you have to verify to access the site at all. For social media sites, particular posts or subforms that are flagged as harmful may be blocked off unless you've identified yourself. When he was challenged by reporters about the possible free speech implications of the Online Safety Act, Starmer said that we don't believe in censoring speech, but of course we do need to deal with terrorism. And they consider us terrorists, man. We teach that not everybody's going to be saved. We teach only if you're Israelites, you can make it. They can really charge us with terrorism or, treason. We speak about America is going to be destroyed by our Lord when he returns from the heavens. You see, we're declaring war against this place. All right. It says we need to deal with pedophiles and issues like that. This is how government censorship is always sold to the public. In fact, there's a famous political cartoon from the U.S. that illustrates the same idea. It shows Uncle Sam wrapping a package marked "Control of Internet Speech," unsure whether he should use the anti-terrorism or protect kids wrapping paper. See, and that's heavy, because they're going to make these laws, and so they can really censor the truth more and more, under the guise of, and we gotta protect against terrorism, and we gotta protect the kids. You see, Esau's the devil, man. That word deceit, which is, when you get the word devil, you get the word deceiver, right? And the root word of deceiver is deceit, which means to misrepresent or to conceal the truth. So these devils are going to misrepresent the truth, and they're ultimately going to conceal it. Right? They're not going to give you the full truth. They're not going to tell you we want to stop, the truth of the Bible coming out. That's really why they're doing it, man. They don't want nobody speaking about their agendas or, exposing, the shit they be doing in the dark, right? Their different parties and their different rituals that they do. They don't want nobody speaking out against them. They really don't want us telling them that the Lord is coming, with vengeance, because they know that and they're terrified. They don't want to keep hearing that. You see, so they're going to say we need to, devise these new policies and guidelines, to protect against online terrorism and to protect kids. But as we see in that, they're talking about this cartoon, that's really all deceit for them to accomplish their draconian measures. It says for a politician like Starmer, it's a canny strategy. Nobody wants to be associated with terrorism or child endangerment, so they'll probably be reluctant to oppose your censorship bill too loudly, lest they be accused of supporting those things, and that's what they're going to label us. Again, we're going to be hated here soon, man. We're going to be hated of a whole world, right? Even some of our own is going to, turn on us and betray us, as Yahweh Shai had warned, right? It says, consider the requirement for age verification on porn sites at first glance. This seems uncontroversial. Back in the pre-internet days, you often had to show ID to buy a copy of Playboy or enter an adult theater, and that was reasonable enough. Then, too, there's evidence that watching a lot of... Yeah. I mean, the point is made, man. Yeah. Point is made. I think it's pretty lengthy. But the point is made, man. All right. Having to use an ID to have access, right, to the internet, and then possibly being blocked off given your background and what you subscribe to, that could very well lead to the famine of the word. So we just have to see, how the Lord wants to do this thing. But again, this has been another addition to a prophecy update. All right. The signs of the times, or the signs, or in the headlines, as I like to say. This is a very prophetic time. Keep your eyes open. Continue to pray and continue to do your best, man. At the end of the day, because that's all we can do, right? Is do our best and let the Lord do the rest. Right? As we continue to see this place fall, Lord willing, with the elect, when we'll continue to rise. But Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to you, hopeful elect out there. I hope you got something out of it. I hope it was informative. But of course, as always, before I end off, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachachodash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, our teachers. Shalom to you brothers pushing and teaching this truth across the four winds of this earth. And as always, peace, blessings, and many salutations be to you sincere Akyama Akwath, you brothers along with you few sisters who are given all diligence in these last days. Keep the faith and get aid all the way into the end. Shalom.